So what we're going to do now, this is what I asked Bob questions all along the trip. He's got the photos with you. He's got the annual. We're going to be sitting down at lunch. You can look through them more. What we're going to do now is go out of this lower parking lot. You're going to turn left. As you turn left, you're going to be driving by what used to be, after the Civil War, called Jordan's Mill or Jordan's Pond. But that grist mill that was there was pre-Civil War. It didn't get the name Jordan's Mill till after the Civil War. The mill was there much longer. We're thinking probably back in the 1820s or 30s. It's called now the Old Mill House and Lodge. It's going to be on your right. You're going to see Mill House Lodge on your right. Look up to your right and you'll see remnants of this old mill. On your left is the Von Clarkin Lake. It's the back side of the Associate Reformed Presbyterian Church's Conference Center. We're going to keep driving. On your right, you're going to see Hillendale Elementary School and Flat Rock Middle School. They built Flat Rock Middle School when this one burned. And they had to build Flat Rock Middle School, which is down there. And then they've, in the 1960s, they built Hillendale Elementary School because East Flat Rock Elementary was becoming so overcrowded. And they moved some of those students to Hillendale. Hillendale, though, is still open and just had a recent big renovation, so it's sort of the elementary school for this section of the county, and also the kids from Tuxedo and Green River and Zirconia are having to go to Hillendale and upward now. They bus them all the way from the South Carolina state line and Mount Pinnacle. So these little kindergarten kids, 5 years old, getting up at 5 a.m. to get on buses, just so you know, from the other end of the county. Our next stop is going to be the black community of East Flat Rock. And I just want to tell you a little bit before we get there. There's members going to meet us there. Mrs. Wanda Horn, and I'll introduce you when we get there. Her family goes back to some of the slaves of these Flat Rock people. That little church, the membership is almost nothing. They may have 3 to 5 people there on any given Sunday. But they have managed to preserve this church over the years with the help of Mud Creek Baptist Church, because the official name of that church is Mud Creek Missionary Baptist Church. It was the people at Mud Creek Baptist that helped those former slaves form their own church. Remember I told you the slaves would go to church with the white people at Mud Creek. Their original little church was over here kind of where Von Clarkin is. Then by the late 1890s, somewhere in there, some of the black people in that community are direct descendants of Judge Mitchell King and his children by his black slaves. Everybody with me? And so quite a few of the members of that community descend through that. Mitchell King owned a lot of that property out there. Where this black community is, he owned all that property. He gave that property to his children. We together?
Yep.
His half-black children. All right, and a lot of those descendants there are descendants of that. Not all of them, and that's the thing. Sometimes you'll hear different stories, and I want to make sure you understand that. The Simmons family were freed slaves from down in South Carolina, a big plantation there, and just came up here. You know how the slaves at the end of the Civil War started moving around. They started leaving where they were and you know, going north, and then they might get to somewhere where they liked and decide to stay. So we've got a lot of that. We will talk about the Kingdom of the Happy Land next semester, but some of those folks that came up from Mississippi plantations and the Davis family down in Green River gave them land to stay on down in the Green River community. And some of those started coming up to the East Flat Rock section when the mill opened and business started and helping build and working as domestics. So some of the Markleys particularly, who were some of the most famous blacksmiths in the history of Henderson County, was the Markley brothers. They lived in East Flat Rock, and they come from the Kingdom of the Happy Land people. So they're not all descendants of Flat Rock Estate slaves. That's what I'm trying to say. They came from all different places. The church was established about 1867, immediately after the Civil War. Mud Creek Baptist helped them establish the original church, and an earlier church than the one you're going to see was located there by the late 1890s. The current building that you're going in dates from the 1930s, but you can see the original stained glass windows from the earlier church up behind the pulpit. So I wanted you to know that in case she forgets to tell you that. And then after she talks and you look at the little church, those that want to, Bob and I will we can't park there. How far would it be to walk from the church to where? There's no parking.
Don't you think we could just pull over on the edge of the road? Is there that much traffic?
Well, Miss Potts...
This is Mine Gap Road.
Yeah, Miss Potts said we could walk over to the side of the old school, which is on her property. Yeah. You kind of cross other people's property, and you kind of got to park on the side of the road. So it's going to be tricky, and I don't want a lot of cars doing it. And you've got to walk through some briars and brambles. But after we look at the church, those that want to, we can go see what remains of the early black school. And I'll talk about that before we go. But that was the only Rosenwald school in all of Henderson County. If any of you know the Rosenwald schools, Julius Rosenwald was one of the co-owners of Sears, Roebuck and Company. And in the late 1800s, early 1900s, he began giving money for black schools. Well, Henderson County had a whole lot of little one-room black schools, just like they had a lot of little one-room white schools. But the condition of him giving money was that the community or people had to give part of the raised money, and he would build them a nicer school. And he gave the seed money for a nicer school. And the East Flat Rock black community is the only community that organized to help raise some money to match his seed money. And so this black school in East Flat Rock was the best black school in all of Henderson County. And kids were come all over from Henderson and Polk County to go to this little black school. And the professors and teachers at that school went on to be presidents and professors at universities throughout the South. And they got doctorates, and I'll be putting stuff on the website about it, but some very famous people. John Potts, Mr. Simmons, William Darity was the first black doctorate student out of the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. So we've got some people that went to that little black school that are extremely famous, not just in Henderson County, but throughout the nation later on, or the Southeast. It was one of the best schools in the South. And when they closed all the other little one-room black schools, except for two, the one in Fletcher at Brickton and this one at East Flat Rock, and put all the black kids into one of those two schools. But most everybody wanted to go to the East Flat Rock school. And it closed in 1952 when they made everybody go to 6th Avenue, the black school, 9th Avenue, over at 9th Avenue in the city of Hendersonville, where they made every black kid from all of Transylvania, Henderson, and Polk go to that one school. And that was 1952, and they closed East Flat Rock Black School. So all that remains of it now is the foundation, steps, the well pump, chimney, but we can take you and show it to you if you want to.
Was that school they changed to? Was that the Rosa Edwards School?
No. 9th Avenue is what is today Hendersonville Middle School.
Across from Oak.
It's in the Oakdale Cemetery. So that's where we're going down here.
Just an aside, the little blue house on the right, directly across from the Flat Rock Playhouse, blue trimmed in white, little frame house. There's a historical marker in front of it now. That belonged to Benjamin King, an uncle of mine, great uncle. He was one of the founders of Mud Creek. A preacher, Benjamin King, started 5 churches here, including Mud Creek. One of the first preachers there at Mud Creek.